people come in as they come in. But I would like to just welcome everyone to our OKR Showcase. Steve, myself, and DJ and JR, we decided we wanted to create showcases and webinars because we learned so much about our customers and the best practices of their business processes and also how they apply it to Monday. And we thought having a showcase like this would be a great opportunity to share those best practices and the challenges and solutions that our customers face in different industries. So this will be, I'm just going to share screen. Cool. So this will be a 40-minute session. It's going to be super conversational. Just pop your questions in the chat if you have any questions, and we can come and answer them at the end. But it'll be conversational between Steve and I. Steve's the OKR expert, and we'll run it for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So first 15 minutes will be just a conversation around OKRs. The next 15 will be a demo of best practice of what it looks like in Monday, and then any questions after that. Cool.
Good to see some plenty of friendly faces. I think we've spoken to some of you already about how you guys are looking to run OKRs and maybe get some ideas from here. I think as Suraj suggested, like just ask plenty of questions. And also if you need a follow-up session after this and you want to have a one-on-one with one of us, yeah, have a think about when you want to do that. Maybe get the right people in the room and we can guide you through it. Yeah, hope this is helpful to you.
Cool. Thanks, Steve. Awesome. So I know most. I know a lot of people we work with us already, but we had some great people through LinkedIn join this showcase. So we thought we'd do a bit of an intro of what Work Perfect or who we are. So we are a Platinum Monday.com partner who specialize in aligning people, processes, and technology. So we help enterprise customers optimize their business processes, while we also help with the change management and user adoption of technology, specifically Monday.com. We're super lucky, or through our hard work, we also won Platinum Partner of the Year from Monday, I believe, in Asia Pac. And Steve can talk to this, but we actually also won another award yesterday night. We won CRN Impact Award for the work we did with McDonald's, and also won another CRN award yesterday night in the top 6 fastest growing, out of 50, we were the 6th fastest growing company in Australia, according to CRN. So that was a massive achievement for us as well.
Yeah, thanks for your support to all our customers who have trusted us with helping manage your tech stack. So it's very humble that you guys are trusting us. But we're only a small business, but growing very quickly thanks to you guys.
Cool. So just some housekeeping. We kind of mentioned it earlier. We'll just pop in the questions. We've got our team members, Daniel and Jonathan. Steve can answer any questions on myself at the end. And today's panel is myself. I am a customer success manager here at Work Perfect. So I specialize and help clients with onboarding, training, helping them build and optimize their boards in the best possible way for their business processes. And Steve, do you want to intro yourself?
Yeah, I've had the good fortune of working in Monday.com products for the last 3.5 years. So I've seen plenty of exotic and vanilla use cases, and I'm hoping that I can sort of share some insights and take your questions today and see if you've got any burning questions that might be able to help you.
Cool. So the agenda. We're going to talk about what the fuck is OKRs. We'll put a bleep in there when we share the showcase. But the second part is the common challenges that companies are facing. And like I said, we speak to various amount of companies from different industries. And so we see quite a lot of challenges, and we're going to discuss those challenges first. Then Steve's going to take us through how we solve many of those challenges through a live demo, and what are the actual outcomes and benefits of doing OKRs on a software or a tool like Monday.com. Cool. So, Steve, I'm going to throw this to you and ask you a question. In your words, what is a OKR for enterprise businesses?
The skinny on it is, how do you track that strategy is getting executed? That means very different things for very different customers. Are you measuring it in a very minutiae way by, sales converted, clicks against pages, or CSAT scores? But effectively, how is strategy getting executed? Is it a top-down approach? Is it a bottom-up approach? A hybrid of those? And yeah, I think the reason Monday comes in handy in tracking that is that we can connect different ideas.
And Steve, I guess, you've been around OKRs for a while. What trends have you actually seen in executing OKRs, in the past 5, 10 years versus in 2023?
Yeah, so look, once again, my experience in Monday.com is only 3.5 years, and Monday's only a 10-year-old platform, really. But have run my own business before, and what we're seeing is companies are moving from being quite siloed and each business unit tracking its objectives to organizations at board level rolling up objectives by strategic projects. So instead of a department tracking its output, what we're seeing is multiple departments collaborating on one idea. And that's typically underscored by a strategic project. So we seldom work now on our own product. We're actually working on strategic projects. So marketing and sales and product might work on the same strategic projects, and that rolls up into a kind of key result for board level to be able to report and see if they're tracking, tracking in the right direction. That's probably the trend I'm seeing, and I think because of the commercial constraints or shareholder returns, companies are looking for faster returns, faster decision making. How do you get greater outputs? And so the larger an organization, the more difficult it is to get faster decision making and faster feedback loops. So if you can track really fast feedback loops in something like Monday.com, you can make, better decision quicker and get a better result, and stopping you from going in the wrong direction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think hitting to your point of relevancy to Monday.com, I guess another question is, how are you seeing companies currently doing OKRs? What softwares that might they be using and tools?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting topic. Came out last night in talking to other system implementers. It's almost that the young, nimble, small organizations have the advantage because they're not married to old ERP systems that are very rigid. So where Monday comes in really handy is that you have, you might have a sales and finance department running out of an ERP, something like Oracle. You might have the sales department running out of Salesforce, etc. And how do you pull those data points together? So why Monday is really lending itself to this topic is because firstly, it's an open API, so it can plug into a lot of things. It's very flexible, and companies can pivot the way they measure things halfway through. Rewind a year ago, we did this for an organization had been established in Monday for 3 or 4 years. They wanted to change, and within 90 days, we changed the way they did their reporting. Trying to do that in something like Dynamics or Oracle or SAP is very difficult. To try and do that in something like Monday is very easy because it's so elastic.
Yeah. And what challenges are you seeing within, potential companies, or what challenges are you seeing in market managing those OKRs as well?
So I guess the number one thing I hear, and I'm not trying to be too accusatory, but I see so many companies actually scratching their head about what should we have as a framework. They don't know, how do we go about this? And sometimes actually simplicity is best. It's starting like, what are our vision and mission statements? And you'll see a bit about that in the demo. Okay, so how are we going to underscore that vision? What objectives do we have? And then what initiatives do we have? And therefore, what projects can multiple departments work on? So the first burning question comes up is, what does our framework look like? So often organizations, be it small or mature and large, don't actually have a framework for measuring success of execution. I think that's a big gap.
Yep. Cool. And I'd love to throw it to the audience. If you guys could chuck in the chat, that'd be great. Are there any other challenges that, the 3 that we've mentioned, are there any other challenges that you might be facing within your respective companies as well? Would love to learn more about that as well. We can address that.
And actually, one of the audiences may be putting in their pain points and their challenges as well. It's quite often, once again, talking to organizations who are well established with existing tech stacks. they often have to go to a BA. Can you please export that report in CSV? I have to go to someone else in HR. Can you please get me, something out of Employment Hero? Can you please go and get me something out of that? And then aggregate all those reports. And there's a lot of time spent in reporting, a lot of time spent in washing data, and that's a lot of lost resources, particularly when there's cost constraints on personnel. So if you can integrate those systems, and Monday has that benefit, then you gain a truancy of data, faster reporting, therefore faster decision making. So yeah, a bit more info about connecting to Jira and Salesforce. Yeah, so good topic, and we're going to show some of the connectivity within Monday in the demo, but there's a native connection to Salesforce, there's a native connection to Atlassian products like Jira. However, there are also more exotic connections you can make. So if you've been in Monday and you have some integrations and you're thinking, well, it's not quite doing what I wanted to do, what we've been successful in doing for other organizations is saying, okay, the standard recipe out of the box can do a sort of automation. We can actually build an automation outside of that using things like middleware or custom coding. So there are things we can do outside of the box that we can't do with the standard Jira integration, for instance. I'm happy to take any other questions. Yeah.
Any other questions? But just before Steve actually shows us a demo. Awesome. Cool. So Steve, I'll let you share screen and address some of those challenges through the best practice demo. So
sounds good. And I'm going to be, forgive me, but I'm going to be talking to an audience, so I don't know the level of expertise. I beg your pardon, let me just find the right screen. So a little bit of this is going to be mundane for some of you, and for some of you it's going to be new. So I'm going to take it back to basics and spend a bit of a flyover what one approach to solving OKRs and rolling up strategic projects could look like. So for the uninitiated, what you're seeing here is a screen share of browsing all workspaces. Maybe Suraj, give me a thumbs up if that's what you can see. Yep, perfect, great. So effectively in the demo today, I'm only going to show one environment, which is one workspace. But you should not be thinking about your OKRs being bound by that. Effectively, you could have something like what we have here is a work OS. This is a platform we built so that you can effectively have multiple teams, people and culture, projects, finance, leadership, marketing, legal, and they can each have their own strategic initiatives, each have their own OKRs. They can roll up to a company-wide framework. So it's not limited to what I'm going to show you. The reason I want to show this slide or this visual is that you can work across workspaces, because one of the best things about Monday is that it does really endeavor to break down silos between departments. And I'll just, sorry, my screen is a bit on this. Okay, so what are we looking at here? On the real estate on the screen, on the far left, you'll be seeing a set of folders that is really the framework that I'm going to talk through today. So starting at the top, I have a folder that is really designated for the XLT, the senior leadership team, the executive leadership team, which is about where things like cultural values, company values, planning is done, and putting things in motion. I have a folder where I'm going to track things like your typical program of works, and many of you probably already have a set of projects in place, whether they might be in Monday, whether they might be in Microsoft Project, not sure. The whole idea here is that you can ingest them into Monday. Also things like follow-up actions on meetings or BAU. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. It's mostly about showing you the first strategic planning part. But of course, like any sort of framework, we look at risks, we look at benefits management, etc. And then the big portion today we're going to spend on is what do dashboards and reporting looks like. So I'm going to show you this as a flavor of a flyover, and I've also got another look of how else we've done this. I guess to preface this, OKRs have been done many different times in many different ways. So each organization can do it differently. There's no limit. But before I kick it off, any questions so far? So at a high level, one of the things that Monday has a bit to do is to integrate and ingest all the reporting. So you might have something very high level, quite abstract, which is just simple, such as objectives and initiatives. How is the status? What objectives are we tracking by priority? What's the progress of each of those objectives and a typical RAG status? This is nothing revolutionary. It's basically coming from multiple boards all connecting up into one dashboard. So the ultimate result for someone like a CEO or chairman of the board looking at how are things going in a simple piece of glass for the organization is getting a dashboard that rolls up everything into one hit. Today, I'm actually going to be talking to you in a bit more detail than that. Pardon? So I want to start with.
Sorry, Steve, just with that again, just to reiterate, what I've seen a lot is clients don't actually know, like you were showing all the different workspaces, clients don't know that they can actually connect multiple boards from different workspaces into this one dashboard. Is that what you're saying as well? That's what you're referring to?
Sorry if I missed that. Yeah, exactly. So the whole idea is your XLT, your executive leadership team, could have dashboards that are taking data from other departments across those workspaces I showed earlier. And what we're going to be showing in this demo is also how people can work at their own level of hierarchy, so to speak, and they don't need to be bothered by, I guess, the leadership team, but the leadership team can see what's going on. And it can be a two-way system or a one-way system as well. Yeah. So I'm now going to drill into a little bit about what happens at strategic management. So as an example, the first thing I want to show you is for some organizations, establishing an OKR framework literally starts from soft values. So you have organizations that start saying, okay, what do we have as an idea for new values or new corporate values? As an example, Work Perfect had an offsite last year, and we decided to then add a couple of more values to our, I guess, organizational mission. So here you might do something like track your mission and vision statements and your value statements. So the look under the bonnet could be, you know, who's approved that? It might be a member of the board. So obviously we're using our typical Hollywood stars here. When did it come to fruition? And then how are those values underscored by initiatives? So I'll talk a bit more about how this comes to be. But one way to get a temperature check on what an organization is doing is, are we actually supporting these values? Yes, we've got a number of initiatives to support that. And then what are those initiatives being contributed to? Well, we've got a number of objectives to, I guess, to measure against. So at a very high level, soft values can be like that. We've also got a public view, which could be something that a lot of organizations might broadcast amongst their team to say, look, guys, this is soft values. You might want to load this as a hyperlink on your intranet or on your HR page, just to show the team what your values are. Moving on from there, and actually getting a bit more granular and tactical then, let's talk about strategic objectives. So one of the things we want to talk about here is at a dashboard level, I can see how my objectives are tracking, but if I'm going to want to establish objectives, I might want to have a look at, I'll just collapse this. Here we go. So as a leadership team, you might establish a set of objectives, and you can triage these by objective by stream of work or by region or by business function. So in this example here, we've got these six objectives, each one of them underscored by a number of, if you want to call it, sub-objectives. And you can see how the executive sponsor is for that. So Brad Pitt's the driver for that. You might have a target year, and this is really something that you would temperature check in your executive meetings. When are you hoping to deliver that by? And in this view here, I'm going to talk about this connectivity in a moment. I'm showing that this is underscored by initiatives, which is the next layer down. I can see that we have two initiatives supporting building a mobile-first FPOS platform as an example, and that could be two initiatives contributing to that. Who are those sponsors? I can also see the status is we've committed, and I can see that those projects are in execution stage. So at a very simple flyover, I've got this view of how objectives going, what's supporting them, and what stage they're at. And how we're doing this in Monday is this connecting column. And a little bit about what Suraj talked about before is Monday has this ability to connect multiple layers of hierarchy, both vertically and also horizontally. Moving on from an initiatives view, what if I want to have a look at the actual project specifics? I can go to my program of works. And here I can see that the same objectives, now I've got how is that RAG status against it? What's the progress of the project supporting that? when is the timeline against those projects going to be delivered, and what stage those projects are in. This is all at this stage manual. In other words, you can connect it manually, but also you can, if you want to put smarts behind it, like saying that when a particular project reaches a certain stage, to automatically update that RAG status, you can do. But you can easily use that as a manual function, or you can say that when a project stage gets to closure, that goes to green, or if the project completion gets at 90%, that goes to green. You can just build those automations in. I'll just pause there. Any questions so far? And sorry, I can't see the chat. So Suraj, if you can be my interpreter.
Yeah. So
Questions
JD
from
had a
Frank?
question. I think it's super relevant. Do all boards have to set up in a consistent way in order to pull the data into the one dashboard? So yeah, I can answer that, JD. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I think another part of the change management or part of using Monday is to make sure that people use similar cadences in that sense. I had a customer that was their marketing department, for example, for any jobs would use the status as done for any tasks that were done or finished, and then the IT team would use completed. And so because there were just the smallest change in the cadence there, meant that this reporting, what you're seeing in the objectives progress, was a kind of not as clean as it would be if it was this set up in the right way. So yeah,
And Suraj, maybe if I can just follow on that
yeah,
question from Jody. So as an example, you're seeing a battery bar here that's talking about how my objectives are progressing. This label is called on track. So one of the examples that I referred to before, we had an organization that had been using Monday for 3 years. The marketing department, instead of calling it on track, had said maybe it's green. The other department had called it on track. The other department had called it on schedule or whatever it is. So one of the efforts you might have to do if you've been in Monday for a while is kind of do a data cleansing exercise. We do this often with organizations. We'll sit down in a bit of a session with you and say, like, what do you want your business rules to be established as? We build out a process map, and then we can actually standardize your columns. And if you haven't come across it, and maybe something we can do as a follow-up item, Suraj, is we can actually share with people how status columns can become templates and how you can establish templates in your organization. Very good question.
And Francois just asked, can you show baseline or an original timeline versus a current forecast and the variation? And plus, can you display the year as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So Monday has the ability to, I haven't got it ready for this demo, but it's going to get a bit more into projects. However, Monday has the ability to establish a baseline, even establish multiple reassessed baselines, and then actuals. We've done this work for a couple of organizations now where they wanted to measure slippage by certain percentages. So if a project slipped by 10%, does it go to amber? If it slipped by more than 10%, does it go to red? So we often use things like the formula column to establish, days out from baseline. Say if it's 20 days out from baseline, therefore it goes red. So we can unpack that a bit further, maybe on a one-on-one session. So if that's relevant to you, maybe just let us know after this and we can explore that with you. Good question. And did I miss the second part of the question?
No, I think you covered it. Cool.
So I think one of the things about looking at these strategic objectives is just looking at things across a timeline. If those of you haven't done this kind of timeline view on your projects, you can, in your settings, sort things by objectives or sort things by multiple ways. So apologies for doing this, but you can actually group by things like the objective, or group by the department, or group by the person managing. So there's multiple ways to slice and dice your data, and often that is something that organizations do, is that they'll choose the kind of what is the most leading important variable to measure by. So in this case here, it might be by objective and see what we're delivering this quarter. So moving on from there, and I'll come back to this, we might go then to, we know what the objectives are. They come from the vision statement, the mission statements. Now, what initiatives I work on? So basically, this is where we might start with at a dashboard level. Just wait for it to load. So once again, at a dashboard level here, so I'm starting to get more tactical. It's actually now getting into the weeds of, budgets approved, how a project's going. what initiatives being contributing to those objectives. So nothing new to see here in terms of dashboarding. You probably have your own flavor of dashboards. But the interesting thing about connecting multiple ideas is that, okay, let's have a look at, as an example, what initiatives am I working on, let's say, this quarter or this year? So a simple snapshot to have a look at what's being worked on across the organization. A little bit of what I talked about before is you want to group them by department, track them by their status. All of that is changeable in settings. So you can say, I want to, group them by status or track them by department. All of that is editable in settings. Typically, this gives the executive team a very good view of what's happening around the corner, what are we working on, what's red, etc. Another way to also look at strategic initiatives is, what if you had initiatives that are being suggested to underscore those objectives? You might go into a scoring, I guess you might go through a meeting where you're actually doing prioritization and scoring your project. So an idea might be submitted, such as a COVID rapid response idea. This is an objective to make sure, maybe you're supporting a better HR environment. It's sitting under review. You can see that it's got a certain metric. You can even put voting buttons against it. And then you can say, okay, after being under review, we're going to commit it. And all of a sudden, that'll move out of the initiatives and that'll go into the committed phase and so on. So I think, did that not fire? Oh, sorry, I've got the wrong status label there. But yeah, effectively, that'll move out of there into going under review. Probably another way to look at that is to see, if I go into what objectives are under review, I can see here that I'm once again connecting to different levels of hierarchy. So I'm in the initiatives board, I'm connecting up to my objectives. I'm also connecting to KPIs. So I might have different KPIs at each department, so I could connect to them. I can see which departments are managing. So once again, all the labels that are in there, you can slice and dice and pivot table against them, and you can track as much as you like in there. So I'm going to now switch to, I want to show you what can be done in the item card and the connecting column, which is often a bit more of an advanced feature. So if this is new to you, if you haven't started using these, this might be a bit abstract at first, but just book in a one-on-one session with myself or Suraj, and we'll take you through that. But before I dive into how the item card, is there any questions that maybe I missed? Sorry, I can't see the questions in the screen.
No questions in the chat, Steve.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to the strategic objectives, because typically the teams that I find myself working with are people in senior management at either GM level or head of a business unit or C-suite or C-1, and they're looking at, okay, I've got a whole bunch of objectives for the year. I want to know how they're going. I want to know what's underscoring those objectives, and I want to know how who's actually on them and how we're tracking. So one example of that, and I'll just go into an initiatives here, is I'll go into, let's have a look here. Let's pick an objective like achieving 100% year-on-year sales growth. Okay, I'm proud to say we got 126% growth last year, which was lovely. But as an example, how do I know that this is on track and what are we doing about it? So this might be our, Chief Revenue Officer, for instance, Johnny Depp. That's his target year, the timeline he's expected to do it with, and what initiatives are underscoring that. One of the great features of Monday.com is using the item card. So you're probably all familiar with how you can chat to someone in an update. However, there's this thing called an item card, and how you get to that is using the add view. And it's kind of like a bit of a shopping cart for miniature widgets, and that's the item card there. So I've already put that in this demo, and the item card is effectively, think of it as kind of like a view into what's connected to this idea. Firstly, on the left here, you can see that we are in the strategic objectives board. We're in group 2. This objective is called achieve 100% sales growth. Who's driving it, who's contributing, etc. And then how it relates to higher levels. In the item card, I can see everything that's connected to this. So the first thing I can see is what initiatives are underscoring it. So I can see here that it's underscored by that initiative. I can also see it's underscored by a project called creating a marketplace. And that's in planning, or I can see it's also underscored by another project called a new shopping experience on mobile. So the first thing I can see is at this level, I'm able to see in other departments what is rolling up to achieving sales growth year on year. And I think that's important for when you're designing or when you're thinking about how you're designing your OKRs. You actually do need that whiteboard session. And I'm fortunate to say Monday's just launched a thing called Canvas, which is kind of what we're all familiar with, things like Lucidchart or Miro. But now you can canvas those ideas in Monday. We'll probably do another showcase on that. So the whole idea here is to be able to see what is contributing to that. And then I can go in and drill in on that creating a marketplace, which is obviously a project. I can see who the project sponsor is. Once again, I'm drilling in and kind of zooming into certain initiatives. And then I can go and say, okay, well, obviously that's a marketplace is a technology product. Maybe I can have a look at, okay, what epic are we up to? So I can click on that epic. And straight away, it'll take me to that. Let me just click on again, that epic overview. So this would be a link to, let's say, a board where the dev team, or let's say a project manager related to technology, is working in. Now, this could be coming from Jira, could be coming from, you could be linked into a GitHub repository, whichever it may be. But straight away, even though I'm at an executive level, say I'm, Chief Revenue Officer, I can see how's that marketplace going. I can see that it's due on the 9th of August, it's scheduled for Q1, the budget, the spend, how my statuses are going. And I can see from an Epic perspective, this could be like stuff coming from Jira, I can get a drill in on how things are going. And then, of course, I can go and update that person as per the usual Monday.com chat fashion. So the principle around OKRs is laying out a good framework. In Monday, the tactical part about how to use it in Monday is using these things called connecting columns and using item cards. And that is what really powers up the ability to talk at different levels or see at different levels what the organization's doing. I'll just pause there. Any questions around this connectivity and how you might see that benefit your organization? And sorry, once again, I can't see the chat, but Suraj, if you can, if there's anything there?
No one in the chat, but if anyone wants to unmute and yell out. With any other questions? Cool.
So maybe look,
actually,
the
yes.
Oh, sorry,
Steve.
Yes.
Sorry, got a question. It's Francois again.
Hi, Francois.
I'm a bit curious, and I know we're not going to be able to go in depth during that session, but to know how or what it would look like if you connected it to Jira, and how do you extract the data? Do you map every single field, or how does the integration work? Just at a high level.
Yeah, so at a high level, you can track things like a bug or an issue or a ticket in Jira. You might want to map that against a user storyboard. You might want to map it against an epic. It's entirely up to you how you do that. You can pull across things like story points, start and end dates. There's a whole bunch of things you can do natively. So effectively, natively, there's about is a handful of data labels that you can pull across from Jira. And non-natively, you can pretty much pull most things across because the API is there. We just have to plug into it using webhooks or something like that. Francois, there's a lot of questions that have come up around Jira. Maybe one thing we can do is do a follow-up session just on that. So if anyone's interested, maybe put your name in the chat, say how you want to see a Jira roll-up scenario. We can probably cover that off. Also, for those who haven't heard, Monday has also a product called Monday Dev. It doesn't necessarily change the way your Jira experience is, but it does allow you to do roadmap planning natively. Roadmap planning in Monday as opposed to using a Atlassian product if you prefer the visuals of Monday. That makes sense. Any other questions?
Yes, JD had another question as well. How do you approach long-term planning while taking into account effort? For example, some initiatives will take more time, effort than others. Also, how do you then take into account available resources per initiative? Sorry, it's a long question. There are some limited internal resources in the business that get pulled in different directions.
Yeah.
How do you avoid these resources getting spread too thin? It's a great question, actually.
It's personnel costs and efficiency and utility of teams is a challenge that's been going on for a long time. It's not new. I think with constraints of people, we're trying to get greater shareholder returns or faster feedback loops. making sure we're managing our resources is critical. So I've just changed view. I've gone to a project. This is a waterfall project, but you can do the same thing on a sprint board. But effectively, I can look at a workload view. So this is a widget that's available by just going to adding a new widget. And in here, I have effectively on the y-axis, I have my personnel, and on the x-axis, I have time. I can triage time by different, days, weeks, or months, and I can put settings in there to say, okay, well, Johnny Depp works half time, so I'm going to put a capacity him on 20 hours a week. Matt Damon works overtime, so I'll give him 60 hours a week, and I can start tracking capacity. So based on what projects they take on, like Matt Damon's got task number 8, and how many effort days or hours or story points he takes on will spit out a result of that. Now we can do this at a granular level. We can do it at a high level from a project manager perspective. We can say a PM might not need to take more than 2 products at a time, as an example. So there's a lot more to unpack on that. So great question. That probably warrants its own session as well. So once again, leave us a comment that you want to have your own session, but certainly something that Monday helps with. I hope that answers at least part of your question.
Yeah, and Francois had a similar question around scenario-based planning. I guess it's similar response. Or also, do you have a resource heat map, as in display in red over allocated resources? Yes. So this, what Steve's showing here, if for example Matt Damon had too many tasks, or if he worked to over capacity in terms of his hours that he works, 38 hours a week, it will show a red. So it means he's over capacity. You can do 2 things. You can either stretch that task out from a timeline, or you can add another resource like Ryan Gosling on that task as well and spread the effort of for that particular project.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I think we can show that. I think I've got it set up to show you here at a portfolio level. People are often inquiring about what does that look like at a portfolio level, not just at a project level. I think I've got a widget here ready to go. If I don't, we can certainly cover that off later. I may not have it here, but yeah, might move on to the next question, and then if we've got time, show you that, come back to it.
Yep, cool. That's it for questions now, Steve.
Beg your pardon?
That's it for questions for now.
Maybe something just for the group again, just to show what we've really covered off. We talked about, just in summary, what have we covered off? We talked about laying out your framework is about laying out where strategy is played and where execution is played. So why OKRs are important today is, once again, organizations are not necessarily working in siloed units. They're working on one shared strategic project. How do you track that, and how do you roll it out, and how do you match it, is by virtue of using things like connecting columns and item cards. So I'll just show you, for those of you who might be new in the room, how this works. So you go and add a column, and sorry, I just have to do it this way here. So more columns. So if you go to your column center, so you've got a connecting column, and that's the whole idea of that, is to connect things. They don't have to necessarily stack vertically in terms of by hierarchy. They can be horizontal boards. But the beauty of Monday is allowed you to connect multiple boards, multiple items, and then mirroring the information across. So all I've done in this example on this board that we're looking at here is we've added a connection between board 2A and board 3A. So why is that important from a Monday perspective, like getting really granular here, is that you might have this team that are really doing objective planning. So you might have your company offsite, or you might have, you've done a merger and acquisition recently, so you've got a new capability in the company. You want to work on new strategic initiatives or new objectives. So that's where you might track those and then underscore them by those initiatives. The second part, once again, of that Monday.com function is to use this item card, and that allows you to then connect any board that's connected will show in this widget. One thing I said earlier as well is that you can work at a certain level and actually add or talk 2 ways to other levels. So I could look at, as an example, say this is my objective to build a mobile first FPOS platform. What if I want to, and this is probably a poor example that I'm drawing to, the more the Monday side of it is, I can go down to another board, like in this case, the portfolio board, and I can actually go and add a new project. So I'm going to call this project XYZ, and I can go and add it. So I don't have to work in that workspace. I don't have to necessarily work in that environment all the time, but I can go then, oops, did that work? I think I accidentally. Because I'm working on a low resolution screen, sorry guys. But yeah, I can go and add that item, and then I can go and allocate people directly to it or converse with the project management team directly in that. So that's the whole beauty of using the item card and connecting column. We're getting close to what I wanted to show you close to the end of what I want to show you from a strategic planning perspective. But the other thing that we're seeing as trends, and some of you on the call, I think I've had these conversations with you. How do you support end of month or steerco meetings, and how do you support discussions around decision making? Once again, OKRs is about facilitating faster feedback loops and supporting follow-up actions at steerco meetings. So I want to show you these two environments here. One is a board, and the other one's a Monday doc. So a board can have its own dashboard. So here we are, and I'm just going to collapse this part of the real estate of the board. 1 second. Just waiting for it to load. So one thing that organizations are often doing is tracking their end of month meetings in there, and covering things like who's attended the meeting, etc., what follow-up actions there are. So in this example, this could be your typical steerco meeting or executive meeting. What are the goals? So you might have a company secretary is tracking your corporate governance in there, agenda for the meeting, meeting notes, etc. Meeting follow-up. So you can have it as blank white space we can just type into. Alternatively, you could also have a link here to your risk register, or a link to your BAU activities. Apologies, I think my laptop is probably struggling to keep up at the moment. But as an example here, I've got my meetings for Q1, and I can go and track who's chaired that meeting, who attended that meeting, etc. So this can be linked, like using that connecting column, to any of the objectives boards, to any of those programs or works boards. But the whole idea is to go in and track meetings and have better follow-up actions on those. The other example, instead of using a board, is to use, apologies for this is slow. Sorry. Is this time for me to put in a request for a new laptop? What do you think? It's a 4-year-old Mac. Let me just refresh that. Suraj, you can still hear me okay?
Yeah.
If anyone's not used Monday Docs, what I'm going to show you next, it's a really powerful tool. Obviously, I'm not allowed to name which customers have worked on specifically around OKRs or that, but many customers of ours are using the Monday Docs to underscore strategic planning. And I'll just get this out of the way. Really slow. Is there any questions?
Just conscious of time as well.
Yeah.
No questions at the moment.
Okay. So this is the other view from a Monday Doc perspective. Have we gone to time, have we? Or
We are close, yes.
yeah.
Or we're
Okay.
hit on time, but yeah.
Okay, perfect. So look, just to wrap it up, this is another view of an end of month meeting that could support discussions around your OKRs. So it's using a Monday doc. If you haven't used that before, you can simply just go and add a Monday doc. So new doc, you can have document templates. So you might have board templates. And once again, this is a white space, but you can also link things like follow-up actions and meetings and put in an owner, like a RACI matrix in against that. So that was a bit of a, obviously a rushed OKR, bit of a demo on that. I think where the power comes in for you guys is if you have an OKR framework or you're thinking of doing it, it's probably sitting in things like a Miro board, some sticky notes, some emails, some spreadsheets. If you need to book in a one-on-one session with myself or Suraj, we can help you get some inspirational ideas and maybe get you on your path. And of course, if you need our help with that, we'd love to work with you on that. But happy to
Thanks
take
for the
any
demo,
questions.
Steve. Awesome, guys. Steve, can I steal the screen sharing again?
Go for it.
Cool. So just to wrap up what Steve's in the demo he showed, there's 4 key outcomes and benefits to setting up your OKRs in the way Steve just showed us. It improves the visibility and transparency, breaks down those departmental silos, just generally in Monday, using Monday.com. We can increase productivity and efficiency through those workload features to be able to manage the projects a lot more better. And through the dashboards and reporting, we can make a lot more data-driven, informed decisions. So just to recap, guys, I know we're 2 minutes over time. I'll come back to the questions. We went through what is an OKR, the common challenges of OKRs that we're seeing across our clients, what's the best practice for OKRs, and the outcomes and benefits of OKRs. So if anyone's got any questions, we'd love to answer those for you. And also, we'd love to get your feedback as well. So if you hit that QR code, this is the first showcase we've done. It's one that Steve, like I said, our team was like, this would be a great kind of thing to roll on over the next few months. So we've got a project management one coming in soon, a sales CRM one. So we'd love to get feedback to see if there's any other best practice demos that you'd like us to run as well. Any final questions?
Yeah, I think, sorry, I'm waiting for questions, but really want to hear from you guys. If you say, if we get enough of you saying, we want to get an HR demo, want to get a demo on how to manage tech, let's do on that. Oh, I see a question there from Francois.
Francois?
Yes, I briefly met with Jonathan and Daniel last time, and they know I love asking a lot of questions. I've got a simple one for you, and one that is probably going to be harder to answer, so it's probably going to be another session. But the Monday doc that you just showed us and the public view, do those require license to be able to be seen by anybody?
So a viewing license from Monday.com doesn't impinge on you commercially. It's not you don't have to pay for that seat. A membership license or an admin license, yes, because that's to have edit access. In the context of OKRs, we have a lot of organizations that have the executive team and who's working on projects actually having a paid membership license. But then I think one example at the extreme, there was a company I dealt with a year or so ago that had 1,300 viewers in their account because they made everybody in the organization see their OKR dashboard. So they had about 200 people that were members and about 1,300 viewers. So they broadcast almost like a HR board, what the company objectives were and how they were tracking. I don't know if that answers your question.
That does answer the question. That's great. And the other one that is probably slightly more complex, but in the previous or in the show and tell, I saw something that piqued my interest that I thought we were going to cover, but it was benefits management and more importantly, benefit tracking, which I think is definitely linked to OKRs. I know that's a broader topic and would take some time, and I just wanted to know if you had any gold nuggets to share before parting with us.
Once again, can be done many different ways. I think it sounds like, because there's a lot of questions about tracking those metrics, so maybe we should do a follow-up on this, on those metrics and benefits tracking, actually measuring up different data points. We actually can do a demo on just how to standardize things like percentages, dollars, CSAT scores, etc. We could probably spend some time on doing a demo on that. So maybe that's something we'll put in the backlog for the next showcase.
Great work for a first demo, by the way. Loved it. Really interesting.
Francois, you're going to be
Thanks,
invited
Francois.
to every demo from now on because we need those kinds of questions.
I was on your
Yeah,
side
that
of the fence
influencer.
for about 10 years, so I definitely know it's not easy. So well done. You did great.
Thanks, guys.
Very kind of you.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Thank you for attending our OKRs showcase. And like I said, there'll be plenty more to come in the future.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
everybody. Have a good day. Bye, guys.